In this video, we're going to make a brief overview of the order of a debate round. First thing we have to know about a debate round is that a debate round is made up of two-person teams. So there will be a 1A, which stands for first affirmative. There will also be a 2A, which stands for a second affirmative. There will be a first negative, or 1 in, and there will also be a 2 in, or second negative. And the affirmative team will be debating against the negative team. So now that we know that there are two-person teams, we'll now talk about the order of a debate round and briefly explain what might be happening in those speeches. The first speech that would occur is the 1AC. The 1AC is the first affirmative constructive. It is presented by the first affirmative. And in the 1AC, you will present an initial presentation of a proposal or change, whether it be by the United States federal government, an individual, or just the people in the room, as to how the world should be changed or different. And there will be time limits for this initial presentation. This is an 8-minute speech in high school or a 9-minute speech in college. So if you are in high school debate, your first affirmative constructive is 8 minutes. If you are in college, your first affirmative constructive is 9 minutes long. After the 1AC has spoke and presented their proposal, whether it be for the United States federal government or individuals, there will be a cross-examination period. And this cross-ex will be between the second negative, who will be asking questions to the first affirmative, or the 1A. And what a cross-examination period is it's a 3-minute period in which one person from one team will ask the other person from the other team, and in this case, the second negative will ask the first affirmative questions. These questions are going to look to do two things. First, these questions will try to discredit some of the arguments made initially by the first affirmative. And second, they'll try to set up arguments that they will be making later in the debate. That brings us, after that 3-minute period is over, we then have the first negative constructive, or the 1 in C. The 1 in C is presented by the first negative. Here, it will be the initial presentation of why the affirmative is either not a good idea, or that there is a better mutually exclusive option that the judge could choose from. And this speech, again, will be 8 minutes in high school or 9 minutes in college. So it's 8 or 9. After that initial presentation as to why the affirmative is either not a good idea or there's a better mutually exclusive option that could be chosen, there will be another cross-examination period. In this cross-examination period will be the 1A, or first affirmative, to the first negative. In this cross-examination period, which again is going to be 3 minutes long, you are going to be looked to discredit some of the 1 in C arguments. You are going to look to set up 2AC arguments. And most importantly, or maybe this is a very helpful thing, especially early on, is that 3 minutes becomes preparation time for the second affirmative to prepare their first speech, which comes up next. The next speech is the 2AC. And the 2AC is the second affirmative constructive. And the 2ACs will be 8 or 9 minutes long, 8 minutes in high school, 9 minutes in college, once again. And what the 2AC is going to do is they are going to answer any of the arguments that were presented in the 1NC. And they are going to continue to try to persuade that the affirmative proposal or the 1AC proposal is indeed the best option for the judge to choose at the end of the day. After the 2AC has been given, there will again be another cross-examination period. This time, the cross-examination period will be the 1N to the 2A. And again, you're going to be looking to discredit arguments, set up future arguments of your own, and importantly, the 1N will be providing extra preparation time for the 2N as they begin to get ready for their upcoming speech, which leads to the next speech. I'm going to erase this order real quick because we're going to start fresh up here. So the 2NC is the next speech. That's the first speech given by the second negative constructive. This is 8 or 9 minutes long, 8 minutes in high school, 9 minutes in college. And here you're going to answer 2AC arguments, and you are going to do it for about 2/3 of the positions that you currently occupy or are forwarding in this debate. The other third will be taken care of in the first negative rebuttal, which we'll talk about here in a second because it has a unique aspect to it. So after the 2NC has spoken and answered about 2/3 of the 2AC arguments, we will again have another cross-examination period. This will be 3 minutes long, just like the last ones, and it's the last cross-examination period for the debate round. This cross-examination period will be the 2A asking questions to the 2N. And again, the 2A will be trying to discredit the 2N's arguments. We'll be trying to set up future arguments made by them in the debate. And most importantly, it will be providing preparation time for the first affirmative to give their first affirmative rebuttal. What's interesting in policy debate is normally people would think after the 2NC you would have the first affirmative rebuttal. But not in policy debate. We have what's called the negative block. So both the affirmative and the negative have their own structural advantages. Affirmatives have the structural advantage of having the first and last speech in a debate, which we'll present later. And the negative have what's called the negative block. And so after the 2NC and that cross-ex that occurs afterwards, there will be the first negative rebuttal, or the 1NR. In high school debate, the 1NR will be 5 minutes long. In college debate, the 1NR is 6 minutes long. And what's going to happen is, because the two negative speeches from the negative block, the 2NC and the 1NR, are back to back, you don't want to talk about the same things and just repeat what has already been said. And the reason you don't want to repeat what's just been said is because there is no point and no speech for the affirmative to respond to what the 2NC had to say. So it makes little sense to repeat things. So instead, in the negative block, you have the 2NC take about 2/3 of the arguments that you're proposing to move forward with, and the 1NR is taking the other third of the arguments, and they are going to forward those arguments in the debate. After the 1NR, there is no cross-examination period. We simply move to the first affirmative rebuttal, or the 1AR. The 1AR, again, is 5 minutes in high school and 6 minutes in college. And the 1AR's job is to answer the arguments that were presented in the negative block. So the 2 in C and the 1 in R, they're going to answer those arguments, and they are going to answer them by selectively choosing the arguments that are necessary for them to prove the simple fact that the affirmative proposal is indeed the best idea. So they aren't going to answer every little argument that the negative block comes up with. That's just impossible. In college debate, the negative block is 15 minutes long, and it's impossible to answer 15 minutes worth of information in just 6. So instead, the 1AR will pick and choose arguments that are the key arguments to proving that indeed the affirmative is the best proposal being presented in the debate round. So after the 1AR has spoken, there will be a second negative rebuttal. And in high school, it will be 5 minutes long. In college, it will be 6 minutes long. The 2 in R is the last speech given by the negative team. The 2 in R is where the negative has to really drive home their point that the affirmative is either not a good idea or that there is a better mutually exclusive option that could be chosen. So the 2 in R is really where the point gets driven home and where the negative team will provide their final thoughts and final ideas as to why they should win that debate round. And lastly, we talked about that structural advantage. The second affirmative rebuttal is the last speech in debate and comes after the 2 in R. Again, it will be 5 minutes in high school or 6 minutes in college. And a second affirmative constructive is looking to do the opposite of the second negative rebuttal. It is looking to drive home the point that the affirmative is the best proposal in the debate round, and that they have made the best arguments, and they are the ones who should win the debate round. And so the 2 in R and the 2AR are going to talk extensively about why they should win the debate round. And that's the order of a debate round. Now you'll remember the big things from this video are that a debate round has two two-person teams, a first negative who gives the 1 in C and the 1 in R. There is a second negative who gives the 2 in C and the 2 in R. There is also a first affirmative who gives the 1AC and the 1AR, and a 2AC who gives the 2A, second affirmative, who gives the 2AC and the 2AR. Remember, there are constructives, there are cross-exit periods, and there are also rebuttals. And remember, the last thing you should remember is that there is a structural advantage for both sides in any given debate round. The structural advantage for the affirmative is that they speak first in the 1AC and last in the 2AR. And the structural advantage of the negative is that they give 2 back-to-back speeches in the 2 in C and the 1 in R. So both teams have a structural advantage in policy debate.